Zohran Mamdani's socialist ideas are spreading far and wide across the country, maybe soon to a city near you. Boston City Council members reportedly may launch Mamdani's government-owned grocery store experiment in their town, insisting it was totally their idea. Now, a New England grocery industry expert says the proposal is a job killer and will punish grocers already facing thin profit margins, strict regulations, and rising costs. So I think the point here is it's an idea that sounds really nice, DeRoy, until you're somebody who has no idea how to run a grocery store and you try it. Yeah. And you find out that your good idea runs into a brick wall of the reality of a low-margin business that's exceedingly complex.
Absolutely right. Look, there should be a basic principle in public assistance, which is if you're trying to help poor people in need, just give them money and let them go out and buy whatever they need in the private market, which is what food stamps are. So if you have poor people in Boston who need help, just give them the food stamps, and then they can go to their own local grocery store or in the big chains and buy whatever they need.
But see, there's a problem with that. If you give them money, you don't get to control what they buy, and you don't get to control where they buy it, and you don't get to control the people who control the stuff they're buying, right? So isn't that kind of it at the end of the day? It's really not about groceries. Yeah, well, it's about social control.
What these people want to do is control people, and then of course if you're the city of Boston or the city of New York or any other city, you can hire people to work at the grocery store, give jobs to your friends, and then go out and manipulate things and all that,
God.
which is what we don't want. So whether you're talking about college assistance, you're talking about food or healthcare, the whole idea should be give people vouchers, let them go in the private market and find what they want, rather than have government run the program, go in there and buy the oranges and stack the shelves full of Captain Crunch or whatever. There's no need for the government to do that.
The cronyism and the corruption is something I hadn't even thought of as one of the largest problems here.
Absolutely.
But the other problem is I can't erase those pictures of Kansas City and the government-run grocery store there that failed, where you went to choose an item and there were two things on the shelf to choose from. They looked rotten and inedible because the government doesn't know how to run a grocery store. So putting the food stamps aside for a second, you also realize a lot of these grocery stores are offering private label options to bring costs down for people because they can manufacture and they can create products. I think Amazon was the latest one to say it's doing a string of these in its grocery delivery. But the government doesn't know how to run a business. It shouldn't stick its nose in where it doesn't belong. And what's going to end up happening, the same way we've watered down healthcare, because I'm convinced that they'd prefer you to die early rather than keep you alive, is we're going to be eating total garbage.
These guys are
rotten garbage.
Rotten garbage at that.
With no choice.
Not even fresh garbage, rotten garbage.
You'll have two rotten garbage choices instead of, a bunch of choices on the shelf. It's a disaster idea.
I think they don't worry about not knowing how to run a grocery store because they also know the beauty of this plan from their perspective is as the grocery store loses money, they can go back to not paying their fair share taxpayers and say, you gotta kick in a little more, which is what happens every time with these. The subsidies to these things, Dagan, your favorite term, it's a bailout land.
It is. Running the grocery store is irrelevant, isn't it? It's just the control. I think this speaks to when viewers ask, why do you talk about Mamdani so much? Because it's coming for you.
It's coming to a theater.
That's
near
why
you.
it is coming to a town near. Go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
Boston has an office of food justice. They literally have an office of food justice. And they have 13 city council members. 13. And how many of the 13 do you think are Democrats?
All 13.
No, well, 8, and then the rest don't have a party listed, so go ahead. Interpret as you will.
Probably.
So Mamdani's idea will work in a city like Boston until it doesn't work. But I was reading this as, they want to make sure there aren't food deserts for people who live there.
Yeah.
As if saying, just because you don't have access to means you can't make good choices. I've been on the road. We've all been on the road in the middle of nowhere, and you have to eat dinner at like the local gas station. You can sort of control what you get. There is personal choice that comes in. I don't need a choice of like broccoli or Brussels sprouts, and that's all I can get in my government-run grocery store. So it's just, I think this would work in Boston, and then it would fail, but they would definitely.
I think when you see your broccoli and Brussels sprouts there, they're going to look like they're rotting and wilted and really inedible. which is the sad part of it. If they're trying to control it in that regard, that's not going to work either.
No one's going to want
You
it.
mentioned the food deserts. One thing we have now is called Amazon and a lot of these other delivery services.
Yeah.
So you're in a place where there's not a grocery store, go on Amazon or whatever else it is, order your food and they'll deliver it either later that day or maybe the next day. That's one option. The other thing that's really important here.
But you're trying to, we're trying to rationalize with people who are irrational.
Right.
We know they're irrational because they think they can make socialism, they are so arrogant and consumed with their own sense of self. They think they can make socialism and communism work when it has failed repeatedly. This is never, government is not being, greater government, more government is not about being a bulwark against the rich. It is about taking over the government and capturing it. That's why they're in the grift in the first place. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've also heard people, some conservatives say, they're actually rooting for Mamdani to win, so it can be a giant sort of cautionary tale for the rest of the country. There's a risk in that, which is that, like cancer, socialism spreads. So people who are Mamdani-like or AOC-like will say, we control New York City Hall. Let's run in Denver. Let's run in San Diego. Let's run in Oklahoma City, wherever it is. And all of a sudden, you're going to have little mini Mamdanis popping up all over the place. So I think it's very important this man lose the election because we want to nip this in the bud rather than have it planted in the biggest city in the country, have it expand coast to coast from there. That would not be a good thing.
Cuomo got a little boost in the polls since Adams dropped out, and he was touting that as he's still far behind, 33% to 47%, I think it was.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Murphy, Mike, doesn't think Mamdani will win.
Thinks he won't win.
He's such an optimist, though.
That's
That's why we love him.
He really is.
I have the most liberal of friends, one of my circles, and none of them are on board with Mamdani. So if you want some hope.
Were they on board and jumped off, or they never?
No,
were
never were on
Never
board. They're scared by it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They should be.
Well, it could be some rotten Brussels sprouts coming to a shelf near you.
I mean, what's worse than Brussels sprouts? Rotten ones.
I'm okay with Brussels sprouts if they got bacon and like brown sugar on them.
Well, that's
but
candied Brussels sprouts.
that is
Bacon makes it better.
That's a
Always.
very different